In this video, we're having a look to see how we can use RegistrationMagic forms for general feedback forms. First thing we do, we have RegistrationMagic installed. So I'm going to head over to the All Forms tab and go to New Form. We'll enter in a name of our form. We'll call it General Inquiry, and then we'll turn off user registration for this form. Hit Save. So there we can see our general inquiry is created, and let's head over and create some fields. Right, here we are. You'll see that the email field is the only default field installed, and we can then add our own fields from there. So we'll start off with the text field, and we'll call that first name. And the placeholder text will be first name, and here we can scroll down in our advanced settings and look for required field, and we'll make that a required field. Here we have the option add field to WordPress user profile, and in this case we're not. It's just going to be used for general feedback. Add to form. That's the first name. Let's add a last name. Add another text field. So we'll go with last name, and then we'll head down to advanced settings and we'll make that a required field as well, and add to form. The next field that we're going to add will be a text area where we can get some information about the general inquiry. And here we can say maybe more details. Placeholder text, more details, and we won't make that compulsory. So from there we can just add to form. So here we have our form loaded, and let's just rearrange the fields. And one more field we might want to add then is a contact number, just in case. So we'll head over here to, in this case, we'll look at mobile number. And let's put in contact number. We'll leave the format as it is on international. We're not going to assign specific countries or any custom arrangements. Scroll down, and in this case, we'll leave that as an optional field, and we'll add that to the form. Right, let's move that up. So we have first name, last name, and let's add the email address there, contact number, more details, and then submit. That means the form is ready to go. Let's go and have a look at the dashboard of our form. And on the dashboard, I'm going to copy the short code here, and we're going to put that in a page and go and have a look and see what that looks like on the front end. So we'll head over to Pages. I've already created a page called Contact Test, so we'll go and edit that and add the short code. Let's go add, let's look for widgets, short code, paste that in. Let's update the page. The page updated, let's view the page. So here you can see the form. I can come in, I do have some pre-populated values. If I was to select Bruce Young, and picks up my number and picks up that it's in South Africa automatically and changes the flag. And here I can say additional information, and I can submit that form. General inquiry is submitted. So let's go and have a look and see what that looks like when received. So here we are in RegistrationMagic, And what we're going to do is head back to the All Forms page. And here you'll see that it immediately indicates that one submission has been received. That's what the one in the corner indicates there, that two have been received. If I click on that one, you will see that it brings up the page with all the receipts, and here you can in fact see the form. And if I click on view, I can see the information in more detail. So I've got the IP address, the browser that was used, the submission ID, submission type. It's a non-WordPress account, when it was submitted, first name, last name, email, contact number, and then any more additions as in additional information. From here, I can print, delete, I can even block the email address should I wish to. If I want to print, I can hit the print button. It will generate a PDF for download, which is here. And I can then open that PDF, and there I have the form in a PDF format if I'd like to do something else with it or forward it on to somebody. So let's head back. Here we have some other ways of searching, and then we also have some filters if we wanted to filter the results by a specific name. From here, you might want to have a look at some form analytics to see maybe how many submissions have been made. So we'll head over to form analytics. On the form analytics page, you'll see that it shows the submission that's been received. Here we can see the data for the last 30 days. So nice, quickly see how many forms submitted and on which day. We can compare then the total number of visits to the number of forms received. And we also even see an average filling time. And a little bit further down, we'll see the total number of visits versus the total number of submissions. So that gives us a brief insight into the form. If I want to look at another form, I can, of course, click on the drop-down and choose any other form that I have. I can now go one step further and look at field analysis. So this will look at the data submitted on the form. This form doesn't have a lot of data submitted, so it tells me that there isn't enough data. Right, we're back here on all forms, and we're going to make some slight adjustments to our form. So to do that, we're going to head over to the dashboard, and you'll see that we also here have a graph, and immediately we can see the number of submissions versus the number of visits. Here we have the latest submission. If I click on that, I'll go to all submissions as we saw earlier. And there are some other settings that I can look at. For example, I could look at an autoresponder, useful when replying back to somebody to say thank you. So there we've turned on the autoresponder. And when you hit save, after selecting autoresponder, you'll see that the field comes up. And here we can say, thank you for your submission. And here we could put in a simple bit of text. Thank you for submitting your inquiry. So that would just be a quick reply. I can also personalize this message. So one step further, I can say dear, and from the fields, the add fields, I can select first name, and you'll see that this is the same information that was included in our field, in our form. So I can then say dear first name, and thank you for submitting your inquiry, and there is a copy of your requirements. And I can then put in maybe more details. So just to remind the user, and then maybe regards. The team. I could at the same time then also add a logo in the header, or I could add some more text in the footer just to give it more of a company look and feel. Then we hit save. So there we've put in an autoresponder to that form. So let's go and test that and see what happens. So now I'm going to test it in a different browser where I'm not logged in. So here I am in a different browser, and I'm going to put in my name this time as demo user, and the email address is it was demo at and we can just put in any contact number. Here are the details. Right, and we are ready to submit. So already we've picked up an error. This does not appear to be a valid mobile number. So let's put in any number which is not sequential figures, and we'll submit that again. Right, so form submitted, general inquiry submitted. I can head back to my, my form. So here I am back at the control. You'll see that if I refresh this page now, that we have in fact two submissions. Oh, three submissions with the latest, no, two submissions, and we visited the page 3 times. And there are the two latest submissions. If I head then back over to the form analytics, right, there you will see that 2 forms were successfully submitted and 1 form wasn't submitted successfully. So that was the form with the cell phone number that wasn't correctly formatted. And if I scroll down, you'll see that the data is starting to reflect nicely on the graph in terms of 1 form wasn't submitted, 2 forms submitted. The browser was Chrome and Opera. The failure rate is in fact a third, and the average filling in time was just over a minute. And here now we can see the total breakdown of visits and submissions by browser. So that is perfectly correct in terms of the history of the specific form. We can, of course, go one step further than that. We'll head back to the dashboard for our form. We'll scroll down back to the configuration. And before we look at any other features, let's just take a look at the emails and what they look like that were received. So here is the form that I received back as the person submitting. Thank you for your submission. Dear demo, which needs a space, but you'll see that my name was used. And then thank you for submitting your inquiry. Here is a copy of your requirements. And here are the details, is the text that was entered into the additional details regards the team. So a nice email that the customer gets just to confirm that they have in fact sent in a form. Let's have a look now at the email that would go to the administrator to let them know that a submission was received. To format the inquiry received by admin, we'll head over to email templates. And we're not looking at new user registration, so we'll scroll right down to the bottom, and the very last form would be new submission. So new submission email subject to admin. So we would say new form notification, and in this case it would be general inquiry form notification, and here we would have the submission data as submitted by the person filling in the form. However, we can add some other fields to the form, such as submission history. So if this person has submitted any other forms, that information would be included. And we can also look at attaches RegistrationMagic user data. So if there's any user data, we can attach that too. We can also look at easy digital downloads data. We don't have that installed, so we won't. And then I could even go as far as including the customer's WooCommerce data and history. So any purchases that they made would then also be included in the form, which gives me a lot of insight into who's placing the inquiry on the website. Let's save that. To specify the admin person to receive the form, we head over to Global Overrides. And in Global Overrides, the very first option is Send Notification To. We'll select that box. And we'll hit Save. With that saved, we'll scroll down and we'll go back to the Global Overrides, and now we can set the recipient for the mail. So here we can define recipients manually. In this case, we'll set manually, but you can also add more if there are more people that you would like to receive a specific field. If you have form limits, you can set the display for the form limits where they should appear. So if there's only 20 submissions allowed, you could say how many form submissions have been submitted, how many remain. If this were registration, you could set for auto approval. If you have reCAPTCHA enabled, this is where you would enable. And if there's a form limit per device, you could fill that in here. We're just interested in sending a message to the admin, and then we'll hit save. So now if we were to head over to the contact test and submit the form, a notification will then be sent to the admin. So we'll fill in the same information as before. And submit. The form is now submitted. And we'll head over to see what that looks like now. So if we head over to the form page and we refresh, you'll see that the graph has been updated. And let's have a look at the email that was received by admin for this form. On the admin notification, you'll remember that we included a lot of additional fields besides the inquiry information that is here neatly grouped. We also now have a submission history for this person. So this would say that we received a form on the 27th and we received on the 22nd. Here are the user details. So this is me and how many submissions have been made. And here are the forms that have been completed. So we have the general inquiry and then also a demo registration form that was completed. And here we have a PDF which then summarizes the latest inquiry. So the nice thing about receiving the form now is when I receive the form from my customer, I can see exactly what the past submissions have been and had they had any downloads or had they had any purchases through WooCommerce, we would see the WooCommerce and the direct downloads information here. Let's go to the form where I'm logged out and we're going to do the same thing there. So this is the page where we submitted the last form. Let's refresh that page. So as somebody who's logged out from the website, I will come in and I know myself here as demo user. My email address was demo at right. The number I'm just going to go with standard number, and we'll submit. Does not appear to be valid mobile. Let's change the country. Right, the form has been submitted, and let's head back and see what happens in the administration area. So here we are in the administration area, and if I was to refresh, you'll see that the number of submissions has increased. 5 submissions, 5 visits, and 4.5 submissions. And if we have a look at the email received, so here is the email, and bear in mind that I was logged out at the time of submitting the form. So there's the inquiry. However, because my email address is registered in the system, it will pick up any previous activity around the account. So here you can see that I do have some previous history in submitting forms. So here we have the account details. This user was registered on that date and the number of submissions, and this was received even though I was logged out at the time. Here are the forms completed, and this of course would be the PDF of the latest submission. So that gives you really nice insight into who you're talking to and the interaction they've had with the company via the internet. Let's go and have a look at our form statistics. We can either do that by going to RegistrationMagic, following down the left-hand side, or we can scroll down to the bottom and we can head over to Form Analytics. So here we have the Form Analytics, and we can see the successful form submitted. We scroll down and we'll see that the stats have been updated yet again, the number of successes and failures, and the average time taken to fill out the forms, and the same information below but by the browser. Let's have a look if there's anything to do on the field analytics. So not enough information yet on the field analytics, but this would really come into play with drop-down fields or radio buttons where users could then make a choice, and the stats then on those choices could be collated. So a good idea to get an idea of maybe get a quick feedback poll, or if you wanted people to make a selection between specific products, this would give you a good idea of the stats around that information. So let's head back to our all forms. And we're going to go back to the dashboard. Right, and on our dashboard now, we're going to just have a look at some of the other settings that are available. So what's really nice now is that if I wanted to use the same form now to start capturing user information, I can come in and just change the form type to enable WordPress user account creation. So the same form now could be used. I don't have to create a new one to start having users register on the website. And let's head back to our settings. What you're also able to do, if you have different users on your website, you could enable access control so that only people with a specific user role, for example, could complete the form. So here we have enable user role based access control, maybe a passphrase form access control. So only people who receive a specific passphrase in their email could be part of a promo. If you have the secret phrase, you can enter a competition. And you could also enable date based. So between two dates, you can access the form. This is great for promos where you give somebody a secret access code, the user role, and then domain base. So only specified email domain will be able to submit the form. So that would depend on maybe you want to target a specific company and people in a company to fill in a form, a little bit more complex, but you are able to activate that. Another way that you could activate the form for user access would be to scroll down, and on the right hand side you could simply activate enable WordPress registrations, and that would enable the registration process to occur straight away just by activating that button on the right hand side. So you're not locked into a form once you've created it to only be available in one format and then have to recreate if you wanted to make that a registration form. So that wraps up the basics around using RegistrationMagic forms as general feedback forms, and the level of detail that you can get in terms of receiving the history of the person submitting the form, the history in previous forms submitted, as well as purchases made or downloads activated using direct download. So I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching.